Whispers of the Wild Heart, a tale of love, life, and an unbreakable bond. The Appalachian foothills, a realm of whispering winds and ancient trees, cradled a story so profound it blurred the lines between human and wild, life and its echo. This is the journey of Willow, a nature photographer whose spirit, though tethered to the unpredictable currents of epilepsy, soared with the eagles she often watched. Her lens captured the delicate beauty of the mountains, but her heart captured something far wilder, far more precious, a tiny, abandoned bobcat kitten she named River. Their intertwined fates, woven with threads of unexpected love, near tragedy, and the quiet heroism of a dedicated wildlife rehabilitator, Alex, would ripple through their lives and the community, a testament to connections that defy explanation and the enduring power of compassion. It's a tale that will clutch your heart, reminding us that sometimes the most profound connections are found in the quietest, most untamed corners of our world. If you enjoy the video, like the video and subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video. The sun, a molten gold disk, was just beginning its descent, painting the Appalachian peaks in hues of amber and rose. Willow, her camera a familiar weight around her neck, moved with a practiced quietude through the dense undergrowth. Her focus today was the ephemeral ghost orchid, a rare jewel of the forest floor. She often felt most herself here, cocooned by the ancient trees, the scent of damp earth and pine a comforting balm. The forest was her sanctuary, a place where the looming shadow of epilepsy seemed to recede, if only for a while. Her condition was a constant companion, an unpredictable storm that could gather with little warning. It had shaped her life, making her more attuned to the subtle shifts in her own body, and perhaps more empathetic to the vulnerability of the wild creatures she so lovingly photographed. A faint sound, a mewling cry, so fragile it was almost lost beneath the rustle of leaves, pricked her ears. It was a sound of pure distress. Willow froze, her senses heightening. She scanned the forest floor, her gaze sweeping past ferns and fallen logs. There, nestled beneath a tangle of wild rhododendron, was a tiny, spotted creature. A bobcat kitten. It was impossibly small, its fur matted, its eyes barely open slits that nevertheless conveyed a desperate plea. Its breathing was shallow, its tiny body trembling. Willow's heart clenched. She knew the unwritten rule of the wild: observe, do not interfere. But this was different. There was no sign of a mother, no protective den nearby. The kitten was alone, clearly abandoned and fading fast. The air around it felt cold, despite the lingering warmth of the day. She could see the sharp edges of its ribs beneath its thin coat. This wasn't just a wild animal, it was a life teetering on the brink. A life she felt an overwhelming urge to save. Her epilepsy had taught her about fragility, about the precipice between strength and collapse. She saw a reflection of that vulnerability in the tiny, helpless form before her. "Oh, you poor little thing," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Slowly, carefully, she approached, her movements fluid and unthreatening. The kitten managed another weak cry, a sliver of sound that tore at her soul. She reached out a tentative hand, her fingers brushing against its surprisingly soft fur. It didn't recoil, didn't hiss. It was too weak. A wave of protectiveness, fierce and profound, washed over Willow. She knew the risks of taking a wild animal, the potential for disease, the difficulty of rehabilitation. But leaving it here was a death sentence. She gently scooped up the kitten, its small body fitting into her cupped hands. It was lighter than she expected, a fragile bundle of bone and fur. She could feel the faint, rapid thrum of its heart against her palm. "I'll call you River," she murmured, a name that seemed to flow as naturally as the mountain streams. "Because like a river, you deserve to flow, to live." Cradling River against her chest, she began the careful trek back towards her small cabin, nestled at the edge of the woods. Each step was measured, her concern for the tiny life she held paramount. The forest seemed to hold its breath, a silent witness to her act of compassion. Willow knew she couldn't care for River alone. He needed expert attention, a chance that only a dedicated facility could provide. Her mind immediately went to the Blue Ridge Wildlife Sanctuary, a place spoken of with reverence in the local community. She had heard stories of their dedication, their successes in returning injured animals to the wild. As soon as she reached her cabin, the scent of dried herbs and wood smoke a familiar comfort, she carefully placed River into a towel-lined basket near the warmth of her small wood stove. He seemed to sigh, a tiny exhalation of air. She found a dropper and managed to get a few drops of lukewarm water past his lips. It wasn't much, but it was something. Her hands trembled slightly as she dialed the sanctuary's number. A calm, steady voice answered on the other end. Blue Ridge Wildlife Sanctuary, Alex Thorne speaking. Willow explained her discovery, her voice laced with urgency and concern. She described River's condition, her words painting a picture of his frailty. Alex listened patiently, his tone reassuring. "Bring him in as soon as you can," he said. "We'll do everything possible for him." His voice, though professional, carried an undercurrent of warmth that eased some of Willow's anxiety. The drive to the sanctuary felt like an eternity. Willow kept glancing at the basket beside her, where River lay so still. She spoke to him softly, her words a gentle stream of encouragement. "Hang on, little one. Help is coming." The Blue Ridge Wildlife Sanctuary was tucked away in a valley, a collection of sturdy wooden buildings and spacious, natural-looking enclosures. It exuded an aura of care and competence. Alex Thorne met her at the door. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps in his early 30s, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners and a quiet strength about him. His hands, though strong, were gentle as he took the basket from Willow. "You did the right thing bringing him here," Alex said, his gaze meeting hers. There was an understanding in his eyes, a shared reverence for the wild things they both cherished. He led her into a small examination room, his movements efficient and practiced. Willow watched, her heart in her throat, as Alex gently examined River. He checked the kitten's temperature, his hydration levels, his breathing. "He's severely malnourished and dehydrated," Alex confirmed, his expression serious. "And very young to be without his mother. It's a critical situation." Willow felt a pang of fear. "Will he make it?" Alex looked up, his eyes holding hers. "We'll give him the best possible chance, Willow. He's a fighter, I can see that. And he has you to thank for getting him this far." His use of her name felt personal, comforting. Over the next few days, Willow became a frequent visitor to the sanctuary. She couldn't stay away. Each visit began with a knot of anxiety in her stomach, which slowly unfurled as she saw River's gradual improvement. Alex and his small team worked tirelessly. River was kept in a warm incubator, receiving fluids and specialized formula through a tiny tube. Slowly, painstakingly, he began to respond. His eyes opened fully, revealing irises the color of mossy agate. He started to gain a little weight, his mules growing stronger, more demanding. Willow would sit by his incubator, speaking to him in soft tones, her presence a quiet comfort. She found herself drawn to Alex as well. They talked for hours, their conversations flowing easily from the intricacies of wildlife rehabilitation to the profound beauty of the Appalachian wilderness. Alex was deeply passionate about his work, his dedication evident in every word, every action. He spoke of the challenges, the heartbreaks, but also the immense joy of releasing a healed animal back into its natural habitat. Willow shared her own passion for photography, for capturing the fleeting moments of wild beauty that so often went unnoticed. She told him about her epilepsy, not as a plea for sympathy, but as a part of her story, a part of who she was. She explained how it sometimes made her field trips more challenging, how she had to be constantly aware of her body's signals. Alex listened with an empathy that touched her deeply. He didn't offer platitudes or unsolicited advice. He simply listened, understood. He saw her strength, not her fragility. "Your photography," he said one afternoon, looking at some prints she'd brought, "it's like you speak the language of the forest." Willow felt a warmth spread through her. "It's the forest that speaks to me," she replied softly. "I just try to listen." Their connection deepened with each passing day, a quiet understanding growing between them, as natural and unforced as the wild flowers that bloomed in the mountain meadows. They bonded over River's progress. Soon the kitten was strong enough to move into a slightly larger enclosure, one where he could begin to explore, to tentatively bat at a hanging feather. Willow would watch him, a smile playing on her lips, her heart swelling with a mixture of joy and affection. River, in turn, seemed to recognize her. When she approached his enclosure, he would often stop his play and watch her, his small head tilted, his gaze curious and surprisingly intense. Sometimes he would even let out a soft chuff, a sound that Willow cherished. The bond between Willow and the tiny bobcat was palpable, a delicate thread woven from shared vulnerability and a deep, unspoken understanding. Alex observed this connection with a gentle smile. He saw how River responded to Willow's voice, how his tiny ears would perk up when she was near. He also saw how Willow's eyes lit up when she spoke of River, or when she shared a new photograph she had taken. He was falling for her quiet strength, her passionate heart, her unique way of seeing the world. One sunny afternoon, as Willow was helping Alex prepare food for the sanctuary animals, he spoke. "You know, Willow," he began, his voice a little hesitant, "River isn't the only one who benefits from your visits." Willow looked at him, a question in her eyes. I look forward to them too," he admitted, a faint blush rising on his cheeks. "More than I can say." Willow's heart did a little flutter, a sensation not unlike the pre-aura of a seizure, but this was different, sweeter, filled with a hopeful anticipation. "Me too, Alex," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Their shared smiles were a silent acknowledgement of the feelings blossoming between them, as tender and precious as the new life they were nurturing in River. The days turned into weeks. River grew, his spotted coat becoming sleeker, his movements more agile, more feline. He was a whirlwind of playful energy, pouncing on imaginary prey, batting at anything that dangled. Willow continued her visits, her bond with both River and Alex strengthening into something deep and meaningful. The sanctuary became her second home, a place of healing, hope, and burgeoning love. She photographed River often, capturing his wild spirit, his journey from near death to vibrant life. These photographs were different from her usual work. They were imbued with a personal, emotional resonance that was undeniable. Then, one late autumn afternoon, disaster struck. Willow was at the sanctuary, spending time near River's outdoor pre-release enclosure. He was almost ready to return to the wild, a bittersweet prospect for her. She was talking to him softly, watching him stalk a fallen leaf, when the familiar, dreaded aura began. A metallic taste in her mouth, a subtle shimmering at the edge of her vision, her breath hitched. "Oh no," she whispered. She knew the signs. A severe seizure was coming. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers clumsy, trying to call Alex, who was in another part of the sanctuary. But it was too late. The world around her began to distort, sounds warping, colors intensifying before dissolving into a confusing kaleidoscope. Her body started to tremble. She sank to her knees, a cry escaping her lips, a sound of pure animalistic fear. Then the darkness consumed her. The seizure was violent, a terrifying convulsion that racked her body. She fell heavily, her head striking the soft earth near River's enclosure. River, witnessing this sudden, alarming change in his beloved human, became frantic. He paced his enclosure, hissing and growling, his eyes fixed on Willow's still form. He could sense the wrongness, the danger. It was a volunteer, new to the sanctuary and less familiar with epilepsy, who found Willow first. Seeing her motionless, with no visible breathing and a faint, thready pulse that she struggled to find amidst her panic, the volunteer made a terrible, panicked assumption. The volunteer, shaking, screamed for help, her voice cracking with terror. "She's not breathing, I think. I think she's gone." Alex, hearing the commotion, came running, his heart pounding in his chest. He saw Willow lying on the ground, unnaturally still. The volunteer was hysterical, repeating that Willow wasn't breathing, that she was dead. In the chaos and distress of the moment, the horrifying pronouncement hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Alex felt a cold dread grip him, a despair so profound it threatened to shatter him. "Willow," His Willow, gone, it couldn't be. But the scene before him, the volunteer's certainty, Willow's utter stillness, it was a nightmare unfolding in real time. Paramedics were called, their sirens wailing in the distance, a mournful sound that seemed to underscore the tragedy. In the midst of this turmoil, something extraordinary happened. River, driven by an instinct he didn't understand but couldn't ignore, a fierce loyalty to the human who had saved him, who had spoken to him with such gentle love, found a loose section of wire at the bottom of his enclosure. He clawed at it, bit at it, his small body fueled by a desperate urgency. The wire gave way. He squeezed through the small opening, a tawny streak of fur and determination. Ignoring the shouts and confusion around him, River ran straight to Willow. He nudged her face with his head, a soft, worried chuff rumbling in his chest. He licked her cheek, his rough tongue trying to rouse her. Then he did something truly remarkable. He lay down beside her, his small, warm body pressed against hers, as if trying to share his own life force, his own wild, beating heart. He rested his head on her chest, a tiny, furry guardian refusing to leave her side. The paramedics arrived, rushing to Willow's side, their movements swift and professional. They began their assessment, their faces grim. Alex watched, numb with a grief so vast it stole his breath. The initial check was dire. No discernible pulse at the wrist, no visible respiration. Her skin was cool. The pronouncement made by the panicked volunteer seemed to be confirmed. A heavy silence fell, broken only by the hushed, sorrowful tones of the paramedics. But Alex, standing a little apart, watching River's unwavering vigil, felt a flicker of something. A tiny, insistent doubt. It wasn't logical. It wasn't based on medical knowledge. It was a feeling deep in his gut, a whisper from his heart that refused to be silenced. He knew Willow, he knew her spirit, and he knew animals. He had seen their intuition, their perception of things humans often missed. River's behavior wasn't just that of a distressed animal. There was a steadfastness to it, a sense of purpose. It was as if the little bobcat knew something they didn't. "Wait," Alex said, his voice hoarse but firm, stepping forward. "Check again, please." One of the paramedics, a seasoned veteran, looked at him with sympathetic eyes. "Son, we understand this is difficult." "No, please," Alex insisted, his gaze unwavering. "Her epilepsy, sometimes, she can go into a state, very deep." He remembered Willow mentioning something once, a rare occurrence where a seizure could mimic death, a state called catalepsy, though she'd never experienced it to such an extreme. It was a long shot, a desperate hope, but River hadn't moved. He was still pressed against Willow, a silent, furry sentinel. Perhaps swayed by Alex's quiet desperation, or perhaps by the unusual sight of the bobcat, the lead paramedic nodded slowly. "All right, let's do a full cardiac assessment. Get the monitor." They attached the ECG leads. The team waited, the air thick with tension. Then a beep, faint, slow, but undeniably there. A rhythm, a heartbeat. "We have a rhythm," one of the paramedics exclaimed, his voice sharp with surprise. "It's incredibly slow, bradycardic, but it's there." A collective gasp went through the small group. Alex felt his knees almost buckle with relief. A tidal wave of emotion, hope, disbelief, overwhelming gratitude washed over him. Willow was alive. She was in a state of profound catalepsy, a rare and severe manifestation of her epilepsy, where her vital signs had dropped to levels almost indistinguishable from death. The paramedics worked quickly now, administering emergency treatment, stabilizing her. Throughout it all, River remained by her side, only allowing himself to be gently coaxed away when Willow was carefully lifted onto the stretcher. His gaze followed her, anxious and unwavering, until the ambulance doors closed. Alex rode with her, his hand clutching hers, his heart overflowing. The journey to the hospital was a blur of flashing lights and urgent medical jargon, but all Alex could focus on was the faint, steady beat on the heart monitor, a rhythm of hope. Willow remained in the hospital for several days, slowly emerging from the depths of the cataleptic state. Her recovery was gradual, a gentle return to consciousness, like waking from a long, dark sleep. Alex never left her side. He held her hand, spoke to her softly, reassuring her, loving her. When she finally opened her eyes, her gaze hazy and confused, the first person she saw was Alex. His face, etched with worry but illuminated by a profound relief, was the most beautiful sight she had ever seen. "Alex," she whispered, her voice weak. "I'm here, Willow," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You're safe, you're going to be okay." He told her what had happened: the seizure, the mistaken pronouncement, River's incredible loyalty, his own desperate intuition. Tears streamed down Willow's face as she listened. The thought of how close she had come, the image of River standing guard over her, filled her with an overwhelming mix of gratitude and wonder. "River," she breathed. "He saved me." "He did," Alex affirmed, his eyes shining. "That little Bobcat has a hero's heart, just like yours." Her recovery was slow but steady. The doctors marveled at her resilience and at the story of the Bobcat who refused to give up on her. When Willow was finally strong enough, Alex brought her back to her cabin. The Appalachian foothills welcomed her with a gentle embrace, the familiar sights and sounds a soothing balm to her spirit. One of her first requests was to see River. Alex arranged it. River was thriving, growing into a magnificent young bobcat, his wild instincts sharpening daily. He was almost ready for his release. When Willow approached his enclosure, River stopped his pacing. He looked at her, his golden eyes holding a depth of recognition that transcended species. He came to the edge of the enclosure, chuffing softly, rubbing his head against the wire where her hand rested. Willow's heart ached with love for this wild creature who had, in his own way, anchored her to life. "Thank you, my brave River," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you for not giving up on me." The day of River's release was filled with a poignant mix of joy and sorrow. Willow and Alex drove him deep into the protected wilderness, far from human habitation, to a place where he would have the best chance to thrive. When Alex opened the carrier, River hesitated for a moment, looking back at Willow, then at Alex. It was a fleeting glance, but it held a universe of unspoken connection. Then, with a powerful leap, he was gone, a tawny flash disappearing into the dappled sunlight of the forest. Willow watched him go, tears streaming freely down her face. They were tears of gratitude, of love, and of a bittersweet farewell. She knew he was returning to where he belonged, wild and free. Alex wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. "He'll be okay," he said softly. "He's a survivor, and he'll always carry a piece of you with him, just as you'll carry him in your heart." Willow leaned into his strength, finding comfort in his presence. The profound experience they had shared, the brush with tragedy and the miracle of survival, had forged an unbreakable bond between them. It had stripped away all pretense, leaving only a raw, honest love. A few weeks later, on a crisp autumn morning, with the leaves painting the mountains in fiery hues, Alex took Willow to their favorite spot, a quiet overlook with a breathtaking view of the valley. He got down on one knee, his eyes filled with a love that mirrored the vastness of the landscape before them. "Willow," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "you are the wildest, most beautiful spirit I have ever known. You've shown me what true courage and compassion look like. You and a certain little bobcat have changed my life forever." He opened a small, handcrafted wooden box. Inside, nestled on a bed of moss, was a simple ring, adorned with a tiny, leaf-shaped emerald, the color of the forest in spring. "Will you marry me, Willow? Will you share your life, your heart, your love for the wild with me?" Tears of joy streamed down Willow's face. "Yes," she cried, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, Alex, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit. They embraced, a long, heartfelt hug, sealing their love amidst the splendor of the Appalachian Mountains. Their wedding was a simple, intimate affair, held at the Wildlife Sanctuary, surrounded by the sounds of nature and the creatures they both cherished. They dedicated their lives not only to each other but to their shared passion, wildlife rehabilitation and conservation. Willow continued her photography, her work now imbued with an even deeper emotional resonance, capturing the fragile beauty of the wild and the profound connections that bind all living things. Alex, with Willow by his side, expanded the sanctuary's efforts, his dedication inspiring many. And the story of Willow, Alex, and River, the bobcat kitten who saved a life and brought two hearts together, became a local legend. It was a tale whispered around campfires, shared in hushed tones of awe and wonder, a story of a photographer who danced with epilepsy but found her rhythm in the heart of the wild, a story of a rehabilitator whose gentle hands mended more than just broken wings, and a story of a tiny bobcat whose fierce loyalty and unwavering love reminded everyone that the most extraordinary connections often bloom in the most unexpected places, between the most unlikely of souls. It was a testament to the enduring power of hope, the resilience of the human spirit, and the incredible, unbreakable bonds that can form between humans and animals, echoes of a shared heartbeat in the vast, wild tapestry of life. Their legends served as a beacon, illuminating the profound truth that love, in all its forms, is the wildest, most powerful force in the universe. It reminded the community of the magic that unfolds when hearts are open to the whispers of the wild, and to the quiet miracles that lie hidden in the everyday courage of living, loving, and believing in the impossible. The Appalachian foothills held their story close, a precious secret woven into the very fabric of the mountains, a song of hope carried on the wind. The threads of life can be fragile, yet love, in its purest, wildest form, possesses an unbreakable strength, weaving connections that transcend understanding and even the veil of perceived endings. If you enjoy the video, like the video and subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.